Hello and welcome back to SiGMA TV. Today we are featuring another guest speaker for the upcoming Malta Week on November. And joining me on the line, he is an AI enthusiast, a gaming buff, co-founder and CEO of Tomobox, David Sachs, to discuss today AI and gaming fraud. Thank you, David, for joining me this morning.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
It is a real pleasure, and I believe you are one of the firm supporters of SiGMA, having been present at our conferences both face-to-face and virtual since 2018. People in the industry know who you are, but for those who are watching this and are seeing your face for the first time, could you briefly introduce yourself, tell us how you got into the gaming and AI industry, and give us some background?
Well, we're all gamers, and I'm a curious type. So my career has led me around the world. I worked out of Silicon Valley, I worked out of Brussels, and of course here in the Israeli Tech Hub. And in the last 5 years, I've been spending my focus on how artificial intelligence can be involved with gaming, helping us make the games more safe, more enjoyable. So you could say practical artificial intelligence in all sorts of games, because we love to games, we want to keep it fair, and we want to keep it safe.
Fantastic. Now I'd love to jump straight in. As we know, gambling fraud will always be a topical problem for operators, bookmakers. Hence, they are forever coming up with new and modern ways to prevent being defrauded. So how exactly are fraudsters affecting the gaming industry in general?
Well, let me speak about two kind of games. There's the social games like social betting, there's game for playing money, and of course, strategic games. They're all under the same category for me because people come to enjoy it, whether you're paying or being paid. And fraudsters, where the money is, it's like banking or any other industry. They look to take the upper hand. So we see all kinds of phenomena. Did you know that there is a market for bots? You can actually go out and buy yourself a bot that will either help you farm more resources on a game or help you get bonuses on some gaming operators. So people are actually selling these tools. And I think that's a phenomena that's going to grow as more users and players are joining the games. And everybody wants to get an edge. We want to have an edge on the casino, and we want to have an edge on the game, and we want to have an edge on Fraudsters, on our competitors, right? So we're seeing all kinds of new developments coming from fraudsters, bot makers, and it concerns everyone. Let me give you an example. If you're a marketeer in an online casino, you're spending tons of money to acquire players, right? Maybe 200 or 300 pounds per player, just to find out that that player is a bot. And it's a machine, right? So you're not going to make any money out of it, but you've just thrown out marketing money. So what I call the upper funnel people, the marketing people, are suffering dearly because they're acquiring bots. On the other hand, if you're a player and you want to play poker, maybe you're playing against a bot who's calculating all the cards on the table. You can't stand a chance. So our job as technology people, artificial intelligence people, is how do we identify those threats? How do we help operators? But most importantly, how do we keep players playing and enjoying the game and not feeling that they're in some kind of disadvantage, unfair? Nobody likes a non-fair game, right? Does that make any sense?
Yes, it does. It's really interesting. Well, thank you so much for you guys, like you tech guys. And so what is the threat for player acquisition and player safety?
What we're seeing today is we have a lot of tools in there to identify stolen credit cards, to find out if someone is maybe opted out of the game and they are a compulsive player. We have all that in game. But we do have, and we're starting to see it from various companies like Riskified, like Unbotify, is behavioral. What do humans do? So I can identify them according to behavioral patterns versus bots. If you're able to identify the behavioral and build models around human behavior, then you can sift out the bots. Now, remember, most of the traffic that we get is legit. It's kosher, as we say here in Israel, right? So maybe you're looking for 1% that might be suspicious and 0.5% that's really suspicious. So it's like looking for a needle in a needle stack. And that's the tech challenge, if you will. How do I find those exact fraudsters without banning legitimate users? I think that is our basic challenge today.
Okay. And based on your observation, how are gaming companies dealing with those threats today?
Well, there are two kinds of strategies, the ostrich strategies, and let's see what we can do strategies. So the ostrich strategy is saying, oh, we don't have any bots, we're good. And we'd rather not know about it, because if we know about it, we have to do something about it. Now, I know it sounds a little bit funny, but I've actually spoken to gaming operators or just gaming studios say, well, we didn't find any bots. And even if you can show us bots, I don't know if we care. Okay, let's leave those aside. I think they're gonna be they're in for a big wake-up call. The others are either doing it themselves, like the non-invented here syndrome. We can solve it ourselves. We have the technology. We have a lot of people. Unfortunately, that's not always true because their business is not necessarily analyzing behavioral data. And there are some companies that are going, outright and implementing those tools because A, it hurts their revenues. B, it kills the company or the player experience. So anyone who is keen and interested about player experience is going to be implementing those tools, either by acquiring technology, signing up to a vendor. Hopefully at SiGMA, we're going to be seeing a few of those vendors kind of tripping into our industry and implementing the same tools that we see in dating apps or in financial institution in gaming as well. So I think to your question, more and more operators and gaming studios are becoming aware and responsive to these tools.
Okay, well, that's great news. So does compliance have enough tools to address bot issues?
Well, that's a very sensitive question because compliance has two parts. It's part of the regulator and there's part of the companies, right? So it's there's kind of a dialect, there's kind of some tension between the regulator and the companies. The operators, they want more players and they don't want restrictions. The regulators want to protect our players, right? So you've seen regulators like the Malta Gaming Authority and the UK Gaming Authority, right? Being proactive and trying to implement a new procedure. I think regulators are a little bit behind on technology because the days of manual audits are gone. You can't sift through hundreds of gig of data manually. So if you don't have the tools that the operators have, big data, analytics, artificial intelligence, you just lost the war before it even started.
And this is where you come along Tomobox to help these regulators acquire like accurate data to prevent such.
Well, generally speaking, so I speak for my colleagues in the industry, all of those who are like positioning themselves as helping both regulators and operators comply and gaming studios making the playground more safe, so to speak. That's where we come in. You can see companies, as I said, riskified on the payment schemes, right? Unbotify in-game bots. Other companies like Tomobox in compliance. So you see multiple companies that have developed the technology mainly for games, not necessarily migrated them from other industries, because games have a very distinct phenomenon. There are a lot of players, there's a lot of human behavior that you want to follow, and it's a little tricky. Having said that, I think a lot of companies are finding out the great potential in gaming. You know, in COVID, we've seen the numbers rise of players, of gaming studios that are making money, and all the security guys are just running after those gaming companies. And I think we're seeing like where gaming is becoming mainstream. We're not outcasts anymore. This is a definite business, public companies that you see out there like GVC, like DraftKings, like Playtech. They're all public companies and they have to comply to all the rules, whether it's their exchanges, the regulator, etc. So I find there's open ears out there, especially during COVID. People had some more time to look into new technologies because they were flying less and being more available on Zoom like we do right now. But I'm glad that we're back to face-to-face conferences, and I think they have a great advantage where you can actually meet people and build the trust required to move these technologies into the field.
Exactly. Nothing beats the face-to-face events, truly. And so why are frauders currently winning, and what needs to be done?
Well, first of all, management in all those companies need to put this on their agenda. It can't be just the worry of community managers, compliance officers, fraud departments. You know, I have this joke that 10 years ago, if you went to in compliance, you looked for the compliance guy in a gaming company and say, oh, that's a guy, you know, in the cellar behind the boys' room, there's a desk. That's a compliance guy. Nowadays, they got a nice office next to the CEO. So that kind of tells you where the industry is going. But I think the first thing to your question, companies have to acknowledge that this is part of the game, and this is something that we need to address. And I'm talking at the level of the board and at the level of the CEO. Once it's out there, and not just because regular fines, don't wait for the £3 million fine slapped at you by the UKGC, or don't wait for your gaming players to churn out and put out on Reddit that this game is not fair. I'm moving to another game. That's too late, right? So when management acknowledges that fraud, specifically in-game fraud, is not only hurting their business, but also their brand, because it's now becoming a brand issue. What is your brand integrity? I think companies today, we can see it all across the board, will attract consumers and, of course, players when they have a very high brand integrity. So if you care about your brand integrity, if you care about your revenues and about your players, you're going to put it on your top of the list, right? Not just number 9 or 10, but maybe 1, 2, or 3.
And so, David, how can AI help address this issue?
So first of all, there is no artificial intelligence without natural intelligence, right? So we have to put our minds as human to create those algorithms. But to your point, I would say if there's one thing that AI can do that humans can't, is sift through tons of data very quickly and recognize those patterns. Once we made those patterns available to companies via a vendor's platform, and it's easily accessible, we're all on the cloud, we have APIs, so no one can say, oh, it's a long integration. Systems like that take an integration of 24 hours and you're up and running. And what AI does, it helps you sift through hundreds of gigs of data in real time. So you're not going to catch the fraudsters 3 months from now, once he broke into your bank and took the money, or into your game, but you're going to catch it in real time. And you can have your compliant people monitor that. And what we're seeing in some companies is what we call, there's DevOps, right? Those people who make your cloud run. Now we're seeing compliant ops. So these are compliance peoples or community managers that have teamed up with a tech to identify those attacks in real time and not wait out for, big public damage or bad PR that you're getting. So rolling out AI today has become much more efficient, not very costly, and could be done within 24 to 72 hours, depending on the vendor and your own availability. I think companies that are not looking in it today will find themselves going backwards in time, and other companies, other game studios, or other online operators are going to eat their lunch. So in the name of games, they're practically leaving money on the table, not implementing these tools.
All right, fantastic. Well, David, unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today. So thank you so much for your insights, and we hope this could be a resource to our audience. So once again, thank you for your time. It has been such a pleasure to connect, and we look forward to seeing you in November.
So we're going to see you in Malta and SiGMA, hopefully, and we're looking forward to that.
Yes, thank you very much. And to our viewers, catch David at the Malta Week, and that is from the 16th to the 19th of November. SiGMA Group is bringing its 4 leading shows together for the Mother of All conferences for the first time ever, so do not miss out. To know more information, you can head on to sigma.world, and we'll see you there.